Have you ever wondered why the most powerful lion of his generation completely vanished during one of the Pride Land's biggest conflicts? Kion, leader of the Lion Guard with his legendary Roar of the Elders, is nowhere to be found in The Lion King 2, and the explanation might surprise you. The truth isn't that Disney forgot about him or created him later as an afterthought. There's actually a perfect explanation hidden within the timeline of both stories that reveals exactly where Kion was during these events, and why his absence makes complete sense. Let's start by examining what we know about Kion and Kiara's relationship. In The Lion Guard, it's immediately established that Kiara is the older sibling and the rightful heir to Pride Rock. While she's training to become queen, Kion is still young, playful, and discovering his role after receiving the Roar of the Elders. This age difference is crucial to understanding our timeline. You can see this clearly in how they interact, Kiara often taking on a more responsible, sometimes exasperated role when dealing with her younger brother's antics. Their different positions in the royal hierarchy also shape their journeys differently. As the future queen, Kiara's path is focused on diplomacy and leadership within the Pride Lands, while Kion's calling leads him toward becoming a warrior and protector. These distinct paths set up the perfect reason for why they wouldn't always be present in the same stories. Now, some fans have suggested that Kion was simply created after The Lion King 2 without considering the timeline, but this theory falls apart when we examine both stories carefully. The writers of The Lion Guard were clearly mindful of the existing Lion King canon and deliberately crafted Kion's story to fit within the established timeline, leaving subtle clues throughout both narratives that perfectly explain his absence. But the real answer to Kion's absence begins with his most dangerous confrontation. When Kion and the Lion Guard finally faced Scar's evil spirit in the volcano, they had the perfect plan to defeat him. But Scar had his own deadly counter. During this pivotal battle, the Cobra Ushari attacked Kion, leaving him with a venomous bite and a scar across his eye that resembled the infamous Mark of Evil. This injury wasn't just physical. The venom began affecting Kion's judgment and ability to control the roar, putting everyone around him in danger. The parallels here are striking. Kion now bore a scar similar to his evil great uncle, creating a powerful internal conflict. The venom didn't just poison his body, it began poisoning his mind, making him quick to anger and prone to using the roar irresponsibly. For someone who had always defined himself by his sense of justice and control, this loss of self was devastating. We see moments where Kion nearly hurts his friends in fits of rage, showing just how serious his condition had become. Though they succeeded in defeating Scar's spirit with help from the lions of the past, the cost was severe. Kion wasn't the only one injured. His friend Ono damaged his eyesight while saving Bunga from the volcano's deadly heat. With two members of the Guard severely wounded, they needed healing beyond what the Pride Lands could offer. This is where Kion's journey takes him away from the events we see in The Lion King 2. Rafiki examined both Kion and Ono, delivering news that would change everything. They needed to travel to the Tree of Life, a sacred place with healing powers that could restore them both. Without another option, Kion led the Lion Guard away from the Pride Lands on what would become an epic journey. What makes this even more significant is that this would be the first time Kion would be truly separated from his family for an extended period. We can imagine the difficult goodbye, Simba and Nala watching their son leave, uncertain when he would return, while Kiara would remain behind to continue her training as future queen. This separation of the royal siblings creates the perfect narrative explanation for why Kion isn't present during the events of The Lion King 2. What's critical here is the timing. This lengthy expedition took the Lion Guard far from home, with countless adventures, challenges, and unexpected detours along the way. They crossed vast deserts, navigated treacherous mountain passes, and encountered new species and civilizations never before seen in the Pride Lands. Each new territory brought unique challenges: territorial leaders suspicious of outsiders, natural obstacles that tested their skills, and misunderstandings that had to be resolved diplomatically. The journey itself was fraught with danger. They encountered new enemies who slowed their progress and ultimately followed them to the Tree of Life, extending Kion's absence even further. The most persistent of these foes was Makucha the leopard, who had encountered the Guard before and now saw an opportunity for revenge. Alongside allies Chulun, the snow leopard, and Ora the Komodo dragon, they pursued the Lion Guard relentlessly, forcing detours and delays that stretched Kion's absence to perfectly coincide with the events back in the Pride Lands. There's something poetically appropriate about this timing. While Kiara was learning to see beyond the boundaries that divided the Pride Landers and outsiders, Kion was having his own parallel journey of growth, learning about different animal communities and ways of life beyond the Pride Lands. When they finally reached the Tree of Life, Kion's healing wasn't instantaneous. While Ono's treatment was relatively simple, Kion's condition required extended care. His scar remained, but the healers at the Tree of Life worked to purge the venom from his system. During this long recovery, Kion struggled with his identity. Would he still be worthy of leading the Lion Guard if the roar remained unpredictable? Would he ever fully recover, or would he always carry this darkness within him? This period of uncertainty and self-discovery mirrors Kiara's own journey in The Lion King 2, where she questions the boundaries set by her father and her place in the Pride Land's future. Both royal siblings were simultaneously experiencing transformative journeys, just in completely different settings. During this time, he met Ascari, the spirit of the first Lion Guard leader, who taught him to truly master the roar beyond anything he'd known before. These lessons weren't just about power, but about wisdom and restraint. Understanding when not to use the roar was as important as knowing how to unleash its full potential. Ascari showed Kion techniques that no Lion Guard leader had used for generations, including the ability to summon the great lions of the past, levitate himself and others, and even control the weather. Kion also formed a deep connection with Rani, the future queen of the Tree of Life, developing feelings that would later shape his destiny. Their relationship grew from initial suspicion to mutual respect, and eventually blossomed into love, setting up a future for Kion that would permanently keep him away from the Pride Lands. This romance wasn't just a subplot. It was establishing Kion's new home away from the Pride Lands, explaining why he wouldn't return permanently, even after healing. The Tree of Life itself was a revelation, a hidden paradise where animals from across the world came for healing and sanctuary. It represented a different kind of kingdom than the Pride Lands, with different challenges and different ways of maintaining balance. This exposure to a new form of leadership would prove invaluable to Kion's growth, showing him that the Pride Lands way wasn't the only way to create harmony. And here's where everything aligns perfectly with The Lion King 2's timeline. While Kion was still at the Tree of Life, mastering the roar and growing closer to Rani, the friendly hyena, Jasiri, and her new ally Janja arrived with urgent news. Zira and her pride had returned to the Pride Lands. This name would have sent chills down Kion's spine. He had heard stories of Zira, Scar's most devoted follower, who had been banished before he was born. The Lion Guard immediately began their journey home, but by the time they arrived, everything had changed. We can imagine their urgent rush back home, Kion possibly still not fully healed, but determined to help his family face this threat. The Guard would have pushed themselves to their limits, taking the fastest route possible, perhaps even using Kion's newly mastered roar abilities to overcome obstacles that had slowed them on their journey to the Tree of Life. But upon arriving at the Pride Lands, they found not a battlefield, but a celebration. The Pride Landers explained that Zira had indeed attacked, but Kiara and Kovu had already resolved the conflict by showing the outsiders they were all one. Everyone except Zira had joined Simba's pride in peace, exactly matching the events we see at the end of The Lion King 2. The physical appearances confirm this timeline perfectly. When Kion returns, Kiara and Kovu are the same age and appearance as they are at the end of the movie, with Kovu's mane fully developed. We can even compare specific details: the fullness of Kovu's mane, the maturity in Kiara's features, and the way the former outsiders have integrated into Pride Rock life, all align precisely with what we see at the end of The Lion King 2. There must have been a bittersweet reunion between the siblings, Kiara having matured into her role as future queen, having resolved a major conflict through peace rather than battle, while Kion returned with new powers and wisdom, but having missed this pivotal moment in Prideland's history. Perhaps there was even a moment of shared pride between them, each recognizing how the other had grown in their time apart. This explains why Kion isn't in The Lion King 2. He wasn't absent from the story. He was absent from the Pride Lands during this exact period, on his healing journey at the Tree of Life. The timeline fits perfectly when we align both narratives, creating a seamless continuity between the two stories that many viewers miss. Kion's story didn't end with his return, though. He discovered that in his absence, Kovu's sister Vitani had formed her own Lion Guard to protect the Pride Lands. This is another brilliant detail that connects the narratives. Vitani, who we know from The Lion King 2 as a fierce fighter loyal to Zira, had transformed along with the other outsiders and found her own purpose in protecting the United Kingdom. After a friendly competition between the two guards, Kion realized something profound when Vitani declared she didn't need the roar to be a leader. Remembering Ascari's wisdom that only one who can let go of the roar can truly master it, Kion passed the power to Vitani, proving he had reached the highest level of mastery. This moment represents the culmination of Kion's character arc, from a young lion who initially defined himself by the power of the roar, to a mature leader who understood that true strength comes from within. By passing the roar to Vitani, Kion showed that he had internalized the lessons of both his journey and his family's legacy of putting the needs of the kingdom before personal power. Ascari appeared one final time, returning the roar to Kion for use at the Tree of Life. With his destiny clear, Kion and his guard returned to the Tree of Life, where he became king alongside Queen Rani. explaining why he wouldn't appear in any future Pridelands stories. This wasn't just a convenient way to write Kion out of the Pridelands, it was the natural conclusion to his journey of self-discovery and growth. The symmetry is beautiful. Kiara remains in the Pridelands as its future queen with Kovu at her side, while Kion finds his own kingdom to protect alongside Rani. The royal bloodline of Mufasa now extends to 2 kingdoms, spreading harmony and balance to more of the animal world than ever before. Looking at the wider context, we can also understand why Disney made this narrative choice. The Lion King 2 was focused on Kiara's story and the theme of uniting 2 divided groups. Adding Kion to that narrative would have complicated the story and possibly undermined the central Romeo and Juliet-inspired romance between Kiara and Kovu. By placing Kion's adventures during the same time frame but in a different location, the writers gave both royal siblings their own compelling stories without them overshadowing each other. When we examine other details, the timeline becomes even more convincing. Consider Rafiki's behavior in The Lion King 2. He never mentions Kion, or suggests calling for the Lion Guard during Zira's attacks. This would be a strange oversight unless he knew the Lion Guard was far away and unable to help. Similarly, Zira never considers the threat of the Lion Guard in her plans, suggesting she knew Kion was absent from the Pridelands during her attack. So the next time someone asks why Kion isn't in The Lion King 2, you'll know the truth. He wasn't forgotten or created later. He was on his own hero's journey, facing challenges that would shape him into a king in his own right, just as his sister Kiara was becoming the future queen of the Pridelands. Both siblings fulfilled their destinies in different ways, bringing peace and unity to their respective kingdoms. It's a testament to the thoughtful world building of the Lion King universe that these separate stories can fit together so seamlessly when we examine the timeline closely. Far from being a plot hole, Kion's absence from the Lion King too enriches the overall narrative and expands the world beyond Pride Rock in meaningful ways. What do you think? Was Kion's absence during Zira's attack a perfect alignment of the timelines, or did Disney create him later, without considering how he'd fit into the established story? Have you noticed other details that support or contradict this theory? Drop your thoughts in the comments, and if you enjoyed this deep dive into Lion King lore, hit that subscribe button and notification bell to join our Pridelands community. Until next time.